Kick back, have a sit, turn it up, get your fix. Time to upgrade, augment, but stay real, this the naked patient. Come by, the doc is in, you'll understand why it's good to be Nick. Like a tattoo, these words stick. All net, never throwing up bricks. Let's grow together through the weather, we can make a dent. Authentic people sharing stories, hope that it clicks. No need to dress it up, this is real as it gets. Let's strip it down, this the naked patient, yeah.
Welcome to the Naked Patient Podcast. With me today is Esther Muster, one of my good friends and patients. She told me a little bit about her story last week in my office, and I immediately just said, oh my gosh, please come on my podcast and share with me anything you would like.
Yeah.
And we can start, Esther, wherever you want.
Well, what do you want to ask me? What are the things that...
You came to me for some skin removal after a significant amount of weight loss. Let's start there.
Well, I had 2 eating disorders. A lot of it was high levels of stress. A lot of it was having 11 children. And, you know,
You have 11 kids.
I have 11 children.
What are their ages?
My oldest is a boy. His name's Winston, and he's 25.
Okay.
And my youngest is Irishani, and she's 6.
Okay.
So that's
a good range.
I barely had, my son just barely got married to a beautiful girl. So that was pretty neat to go to that wedding. But, boy, it has been a long journey. Quite an emotional journey. A lot of people don't realize when you're walking down the road what you really have been through. You know, they'll say you look good or this or that, but wow, it's been a long process.
How much did you weigh at your heaviest?
So when I started my journey, it was 306 pounds. Tried everything, tried different kinds of things.
Had you always been heavy or?
Been anorexic for 9 years. So I actually had 2 eating disorders.
Okay.
So I was anorexic for 9 years. That was really hard to overcome. During that time, you know, I just couldn't do it anymore, and I just started eating and stress eating. And there was some things, I don't know how far detailed you want to go. I mean, there was a reason why.
Much as you want to tell, as much as you want to share.
But there was some things going on in the, you know, in my personal life that was pretty devastating. And so I just started eating. And I didn't know at the time that I was stress eating. And I just, you know, it just kept on. And then I would start just getting like thoughts of, you know, I don't know how dark we can go on this.
You can say any word you want on this.
But
and
I
you
was
can go
pretty
as dark as
dark.
you
I
want.
mean, pretty much every week I just thought ending my life would be probably the most fastest, you know, because I just felt so ugly.
What can I ask
Go ahead.
what was going on that put you in that position?
So I lived in a religion where, how do I say this? Like, I don't ever want to down where I've come from. I'm truly grateful where I've come from.
Yeah.
I came from an FLDS polygamous group, had 3 moms, 46 brothers and sisters.
Oh my gosh.
And so, you know, oh my goodness, was well taken care of. But I had, at a young age, I had such a low self-esteem. I always thought I was very ugly. And I just knew it. I just knew I was ugly. And through the whole process, my whole entire youth, I would always compare to a lot of other women. And I think it was because I thought anytime I was going to get a sister wife, and she's just going to look beautiful, and I'm never going to be there. I didn't know how to comb my hair like all the girls that were fancy. I didn't know how to, I was more like a tomboy. I loved to work. And I just worked. And I just didn't really know how to take care of myself. And
Were you assigned a husband?
I was.
How old
yes,
were you
but I
then?
was actually inspired. This is
nice.
what's interesting is, and I won't deny, like I really was inspired to marry this certain guy. And he's amazing. He takes really good care of us. But, you know, later on in life, some really crazy shit happened. I guess we shouldn't swear on.
You can.
Okay. Really crazy stuff happened. And I don't know all what happened, but apparently my husband thought he felt like he was inspired to take on another woman. Okay. And it was my half sister. But they were doing it secretly.
Okay.
I knew, but I didn't. And at the time I thought, how do I get out of this? How do I, you know, I have 10 children at the time.
Yeah.
And I'm 30, I think I was 36 at the time.
Yeah.
And I just like, how do I get out of this? How do I, and I'm always eating and I'm always just trying to figure it out.
Can I ask you a
Absolutely.
question?
Go ahead.
So here's a question. You're in a religion where polygamy is the norm. And this is probably naivety on my part. I can only imagine like what you must have been going through and how difficult it was. But at the same time, my question is like, why was it surprising to you when that was essentially what the expectations were?
Yeah. So in my mind, at age 10, a couple of my moms had the biggest fight. And it was so dramatic. It was, as a child, I got so scared. And I thought, okay, I went to my mom and I says, I will never live plural marriage, ever. And I thought I was the most wickedest person to feel that way. And I was age 10. And so I thought I was so determined I was never going to live the law. But I didn't dare tell anyone. I felt like I was this really, like, am I just a bad person to not want this religion? Am I just a bad person? Because I loved the moral values. You know, I loved how we worked hard and we all worked together. But I didn't like the fact that every time, it was almost like, I felt like it was a competition. And I hate that. Why can't we just be happy? You know, I always thought, why can't we just be happy? Why does it always have to be a competition? Why can't we just learn to get along, you know? And I never could figure it out. And so I just thought my husband knew that I didn't ever want it, you know? But I don't know if he ever wanted it. I think there was like different degrees. Like if you get a third wife, you get to the highest kingdom. I don't know a lot of what the men were taught. I really don't. But I just always thought, I thought he would know, you know? And that was my bad, to not communicate. But I didn't know how to communicate. Yeah. It's so hard to communicate when you don't know if you're going to be judged or looked at. Like, I just never understood it. So it was, it's a good question. Why was it? But even in the church, you don't just seek out another woman. You're placed by one. I don't know how the women can be, but the men can't seek out and just go behind and, you know, and it was at the time, okay, so, it was at the time where we weren't even supposed to be touching.
Got it.
You know, we were shaking hands. Husbands weren't supposed to have any, you know, you're just, it's, good morning, good night, you know, no relationship, couldn't have babies. My husband owned an amazing company. It was going really well. And the bishop found out we had a baby and took our company away. And I don't know if you've heard of this company, but BZI Construction.
Okay.
I don't know if you've heard it, but
I have not.
It's a big steel erection. They do a lot of massive buildings, Walmarts to you name it.
Oh, wow.
And it was going really well. Charles worked very hard, including the people that worked with them, but because of that, we got that taken away. And during that time, we weren't supposed to have any interaction. And so I felt like that to me was cheating. Now, I don't know if he thought it was cheating, but I felt like it was.
Sure.
Because we weren't even supposed to have any, and marriages weren't allowed.
Interesting. Was this was down in Colorado City?
This was actually, well, yeah, everything, yeah. And I truly cannot tell you who thought of all these laws. You know, one person says it's this person and another says this. And finally, we just moved up to Idaho. Okay. And that's when my eating disorder rapidly increased. I was having severe headaches. I could not walk. And every time I walked, I was in so much pain all the time. And so, yeah, the heaviest, I was 306 pounds.
So what was the impetus for you deciding to change?
So, a lot of many things, but I would say the one that really changed my life was one day after I found out what happened. I thought I had bipolar. I thought, okay, I just got to have some kind of, I'm up and down all over the place. And my poor kids, bless their hearts, they're seeing a mom that's so sad all the time. And that's really hard in of itself, because I felt like I was always being watched. Like, it's one thing to have your problems and no one sees it, but to have a lot of children watch you go downhill and be sad, it's so sad. It's so hard, because it feels like you have no room to just be able to cry. And so I had to leave the house multiple times to just cry and cry and cry and cry, because I knew how do I tell my husband I don't want to live the law. I want to just move on. This is the stupidest, not touch your husband, not have a relationship, I didn't even get to know my husband. He was building a multi-millionaire business. And so it was like I felt so cheated all the time. I raised my children alone. Many, many, many times I was all alone. I had no family, nobody to talk to. I didn't even know who to call. I couldn't call my mom. I couldn't call my brothers or sisters. And so I just felt so alone. And then after I found out, one day I just lost it. And I can tell you the story, and you might want to just cut this out, but I was in the car going 80 miles an hour. I didn't even think about my family, my children. This may seem pretty selfish, but I didn't think about anything. I just needed to get the pain away. It was like I was trying so hard to be a good wife, to be faithful. It was like we're on two different planes. I tried to get to his side, but I never could get on his plane. And I would make candlelight dinners. This whole thing running through me, 80 miles an hour. I would clean the house. The children were in bed, all on a perfect timing. I'd wake up at 6 o'clock. My children are hair combed and dressed every morning. Meals are on. Work, work, work. I have another kid. Work, work, work. I have another kid. Work, work, work. And I never, ever got that intimate moment in time. Ever. And that's going through me 80 miles an hour. By the time I found out he wants another wife, I've never had a honeymoon, and he takes me on a dinner one night, and I thought, oh, this might work out, And he's like, at the end of the dinner, he's like, I was wanting to take the other mom on a honeymoon to Hawaii. And I sit here and think, after 20 years, why even care?
You just wanted somebody to love you.
Why even care? At that time, I'm ugly, I'm fat. Of course she's going to want a beautiful blonde-haired, blue-eye. And that's all I felt. Yeah. And I felt so alone. I had no one. My kids never understood. I kept everything quiet. And this is very interesting how I'm just even speaking to you. So you must, because I don't talk about this very often, but all the times I just thought I was this good wife. And you wonder, how can someone just keep this a secret for so long? I mean, I get that if they're not happy, I get it. If you're not happy, do something about it. But why keep it a secret? That's what hurt me. Mm-hmm. Why keep it a secret? If you really want someone, and I'm not the one, didn't I deserve at least to just get told? Of course. I was such a good wife, a very patient person. I sat there watching him make millions, and the kids were taken care of. He never had to worry about it. He never had to worry about it. And I just thought, it's so humiliating that I went through all that. And this is what I was thinking, 80 miles an hour. I called my husband. I didn't know my daughter, my oldest daughter, Eva, was down on the farm. This was in Idaho. And I called my husband. I says, I can't believe I was screaming, goodbye. And I go down, and I don't know who stopped. I didn't stop on the brakes. I didn't turn the wheel. And for whatever reason, that day, I was saved. Now, at the time, I didn't really believe in a God anymore. I didn't believe in really anything. It's just like, how does things happen like this? Like, I'm so sick of it. I lived my whole life in fear, in doubting, in wishing I was as beautiful as the next person. It just all came to a head. Mm-hmm. And I had so much negative. Anyway, and so I get done, and I sat there. Charles tried to come and talk to me. I couldn't. I just sat there in the car. And all of a sudden, you have two choices, Esther. You can either move, you can either get help, or take your life. And I knew taking your life was the easy way out. Mm-hmm. And I chose getting help. And that was the day. And I got to meet one of the most amazing guys. His name's Chris Swanson. Mm-hmm. You can look him up. He was my life coach 24/7. I actually had him on speed dial for years, almost 4.5 years. We went to a life event, and it was I don't know what event it was, but he was there on the stage, and I don't know why, but for some reason, when he walked on the stage, I just knew he was going to be the one that helped me. Now, at the time, I didn't know he was a life coach, but he helped quite a bit of people, addicts to suicidal to, and I didn't know that at the time. I just knew. And then he told a story that really touched me. And even sitting in that congregation, I was wondering which way should I end my life? It's such a dark place. But,
But I also don't think that anybody would fault you for going to that place. especially not after going through what you've been through.
It's
And
humbling because I always tried to be good. You know, I always tried to be this good person. And it's like, you know, and my husband's sitting here and the other person's, they're texting and you're just feeling it and you just don't know how to reach out. You don't know what to say. And I get if that bond and that reaction, I get that. Okay, I get it now. Didn't before. I get that.
mm-hmm.
But behind my back,
Yeah.
and all I didn't I just get a chance to just at least say I wasn't happy? Because I sure the hell wasn't.
I think at the end of the day, the most basic human need that we have is we want to be loved.
We do.
And
I felt like I never had
yeah.
adult interaction either. And so I didn't know how to handle people. I'd be so afraid. I remember just holding my head down. And I think it hurt me. Trusting people, you know, but anyway, I got to the point where Chris Swanson, you know, there was times where I would actually be in my closet. I had a little, maybe 3x4 closet. And I remember thinking anytime I felt like, because at the time she was living with us. So I tried living plural marriage for 8 months. But every time I saw them, I would get, trauma. I would get an anxiety attack.
Yeah.
And I'd actually stop breathing. And so I had to run in the closet and I would cuddle up in the corner. So imagine cuddling up in the corner and hugging your pillow and you're wondering, how do you breathe? And so Chris Swanson helped me. And I remember thinking some of his first times he helped me, I was in the closet with the light off. But I remember thinking, little bit, you know, just he'd help me a little bit and he'd help me a little bit. And then one day I had the biggest fit. It was like he broke me. And I had the biggest fit. I was like a little child that threw a tantrum. And I remember thinking, I got on the ground and I just sat and I cried and I cried and I cried. It was like I finally just released it all.
Mm-hmm. And so how did you end up leaving?
Well, one day I just knew. And this is kind of weird too. This is kind of a weird story too, but I just knew in my heart if I don't kick him out, and it went all against, I believed, divorce, that kind of stuff. It was so heartbreaking. I didn't want to hurt my kids, but how do you live with someone? How do you live with people that you don't trust? I had 2 options. You know, some people think, how could you do that? Like, why would you do that? But I had 2 options. It's one, stay and live plural marriage with people you can never trust again, or move on. I knew she was expecting at the time. Mm-hmm. And I thought, I would rather move on. Let him be what he needs to do, and I'll move on. And one day I did. One day I stood in front of him and I looked him right in the eyes and I says, you just go be with her and I'll move on. And I told him to get the fuck out of my home. And that's exactly what I felt like. I was 30 feet tall. Get the fuck out of my home.
Good for you.
I know that, and I am a God person, but I don't know if we say that, but I knew that I would be taken care of and that I would have my children. But
what happens with the FLDS church in that situation when you say get the fuck out of my home, you move on? What happens?
I think at that time we were kind of out anyway. Okay. I mean, we weren't really following.
Okay.
I mean, obviously we had a kid, so yeah. We were kind of sneaking around at that time.
Okay.
But I don't know. At that time, I just didn't even care at that time. It was
so they didn't really play a role in this. This just became like a pretty standard divorce and all of that. Okay.
Yeah, I found a really good lawyer and Chris Swanson just went full force. It was a lot of money that my ex paid for, thank goodness. But he did. That was where I started finally getting a little bit of a voice.
Yeah.
You know, and I wasn't trying to just be a bitch. It just to stand up and say, you know what, I don't deserve this.
No, you chose,
Esther,
you chose you
yeah,
for the first time in forever. Like everything up until that point you had been doing was for him or for your children. And for the first time you said, I'm going to do what I want. I choose me.
And it was really hard at first. I felt very selfish. I did. At first it was like, is this selfish to take care of myself first? Is this, but when I started, it's kind of cool because the progress I made each time was like, I was like this little kid. Had this little jitter, like, oh my gosh, it was like, I felt this for the first time, or oh my goodness, I felt this for the first time. And, here I am and almost in my 40s, and it was so sad because it's like, I felt like a little kid, know, and as I got more and more, and Chris Swanson, oh my gosh, that guy had to have some major patience because I was actually someone that just was so broken. But the saddest thing is I didn't dare tell anyone. I didn't know how to tell anyone. Even my children will never know.
If you could go back and talk to that girl who was so alone, what would you now say to her?
Oh boy, that's a hard. How do you answer that?
However you want. You now have this perspective of what it feels like to make the decision that she made and what life is like now for you. What would you want that girl to know?
I think the biggest thing is just, boy, how do I word it? Maybe you could help me out a little bit. Because I can say it, but I don't know how to put it in words. Like, I think you have to really, I was going to say you have to really know who you are, but not be afraid to, how do I say this? I'm so sorry. Boy, it's a powerful question. Probably just don't be afraid to just try not to be a people pleaser, or how do I say it? Don't be afraid of who you truly really want to be.
There you go.
Because at the end of the day, it's just not everyone's going to like you, and you're not going to be like that other person. Maybe just know that you were created, and that's all that matters. You're the only one. You're the original of who you are. And you don't have to be perfect. Mm-hmm. You don't have to, let's see. That's, wow, sorry. You're going to have to edit this.
I don't know.
That
was beautiful.
Crazy. I've never had that question asked me, so.
That was a beautiful answer. Don't be afraid. Don't be a people pleaser.
Yeah, I guess.
Choose you.
Yeah, choose you, because you really, you're going to die with you. You're not going to die with others. You're.
Can you say that louder for the people in the back? I have this conversation with people every single day.
you're going to end with you. Mm-hmm. And I wasted so much of my life thinking I had to make sure everyone was happy. And if they weren't, it was all me. And I just remember thinking, that someone is sad, it's me. That someone is this. Oh, my mom is probably upset. It's probably me. It's me.
Are you better able to show up for your kids now than you were then?
So much. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm not like the best, perfect mom, but yes, I do have to have my space once in a while. I'll say that all the time. Probably because I never really got time for myself. And so I love my space. And my kids know it. But at the same time, I try really hard to interact with them more. I'm not as good as as I should be, but I am learning. And they're so patient with me. It's been a long journey. And so, tell you the truth, I really only it's only been a couple of years since I've really improved and gone up and up and up.
So we've done all of this kind of skin removal surgery for you. And you really kind of touched my heart last week when you were talking about kind of what it all means for you now.
When I first thought, how is this even possible? Yeah, right. There's no way someone can take your skin off and you can actually have a flat stomach. Yeah, right. I just thought it was all a gimmick. Mm-hmm. And so when I first came to you, I was really intimidated. I was like, yeah, right. I'm probably going to die on the table. I have so damn much thick skin to remove. And not only that, it's humiliating. And I had to really work hard. That day when I came in, I had to really work hard with myself to not just think negative.
Yeah. It is never lost on me the bravery that it takes for women just to, and men too, to just come into my office.
Oh, I'm telling you, it was so daggum humiliating. And I was like, you wonder if someone's just looking at you and thinking, ugh, how could she get this fat? But I'm telling you, it took all my willpower to not think that and know that this is an opportunity that you have, Esther. Mm-hmm. And yeah, you're going to have scars. That's really hard on me because, again, I thought you had to look very pretty all the time. And if you have scars, you're not pretty. And so I really had to work with myself on that as well. But that was amazing. And after the surgery, I just was blown away. Like, oh my gosh, 20 years I've carried this skin. Mm-hmm. Probably less, probably 18 years I've carried this skin. And it's gone. It was the weirdest thing, But the neatest thing, oh my gosh. Okay, so the other day I was walking down the road and oh my gosh, I used to... Oh, we can't get emotional. I used to look down a lot. Now I have my held up high and I feel beautiful. I don't give a fuck. I seriously don't. I do not give a fuck what people think of me. I walk down that road and I own it. Good. And I have never.
What helped you get there? Because I know it wasn't just the skin removal.
So many things come to place, my life coach to the skin removal. But the skin removal was the big thing, like the life coaching, skin removal. But what got me there was working hard. It was starting to read. I never liked to read. Mm-hmm. And I started reading every day. I lived up in Salt Lake near Provo. I went to the same coffee shop every day. And these guys got to see me at 280. And I started reading. I started changing my diet. I started just changing everything. but probably the most important thing was my eating. I finally figured out a way to eat that was made for me. No flour, no sugar. When I started getting off no flour, no sugar, my kids, every person that knew me, oh my gosh, they couldn't even believe it. My mood swings became better. My pay, everything became better. And so I ended up following it and kept on doing it. And within 30 days, I lost, 30 days, I lost 32 pounds. And in 60 days, I lost 60 pounds. Oh my goodness. And I kept on going. And I kept on going. And I thought, oh my gosh, for the first time, I thought, oh my word, I can keep going. But it was a lot of work. A lot of times I would just start crying. And I thought, no, Esther, you got to keep going. You didn't come this far to fail. That part where you got saved, almost taking your life to now, there's no way turning back. And for some reason, I just kept on thinking, Esther, you have two choices. And I just kept on going and kept on going. And then I kept on reading more and more Tony Robbins I like Tony Robbins.
I do.
He's really easy to follow.
He is very easy to follow. It's a beautiful message.
I love Tony Robbins. I would love to meet him someday.
Do you see the reason I asked you that question? Because while the skin removal seems huge to you, you put in so much work and so much effort to learn how to love you and to take care of you. The skin removal was the smallest thing in the world.
Oh my gosh. It's been, I've never really just sat here and thought about it, but I was thinking about this the other day. It is amazing the power we hold when we finally figure out that we are enough. And we never have to really, we never have to be like that other person, because that other person is as special as I am. Might be a millionaire, might be a surgeon, might be even, but I always thought I didn't have anything to show. I was just a mom, surviving every day, expecting or nursing. And I felt like I never accomplished anything. Yeah. But every time I see my children, it's so humbling. And all of them are good. And all of them are, we have our moments. We're not perfect, and some might have some sadness that are against me. To each their own, whatever they feel. It's so neat that all that noise is done.
All because you realized you're enough.
I realized I was enough and that I don't have to be like, it's amazing. And I thought, okay, the next thing I'm going to do is strength training. And just to let you know, oh my gosh, it's no joke.
It is not.
It is no joke. I'm sitting here thinking, and you want me to what? And you want me to lift? And I work with one of the strongest women in the world. And I did not know that.
The great part about strength training, and we talked about this with my last guest a little bit, is you're going to put on some muscle, which requires more energy to maintain in your body, which means you'll be able to eat more calories and not gain weight.
Yeah,
that's the top secret thing that nobody seems to understand with weightlifting, right?
Yep.
Is if I put on muscle, I get to eat more.
Yeah, I need to remember that.
Yeah,
because I've been on such a strict way of eating.
Exactly.
And I'm like, why do I feel shaky? Or why do I feel? She's like, have you done this? I'm like, oh yeah. You mean I can eat this now? And yes, you need to eat more protein. I'm all, oh, okay.
Protein.
But I think the one thing that I have to get used to is my scars. I'm not used to my scars. Like sometimes I'll get really emotional. Is that something that...
How long has it been since your surgery?
Boy, I don't know.
6 months almost?
6 months, I think.
Those scars, what I tell people is it's a year. It is a year-long process before your mind up here knows that this is now your body.
Yes, because interesting is even when I'm exercising in my mind, I still think I'm heavy.
Uh-huh.
And she's like, she wants me to step up on a 2-foot box. How am I going to go from that to there? And it's so crazy. It's all in my mind. Yeah. It's like, and oh, poor girl. She's so patient with me. Bless her dear heart. But I'm so determined. And guess what I got to do the other day?
What's that?
I got to start running.
Nice.
And I haven't been able to do that.
I love it.
And so that's another thing that I started doing was jogging, running. Now I can climb. I'm starting to get a lot of muscle in my arms, my legs, something that I always had a weakness. Yep. And so it's amazing. I work out. I'm trying to work out 3 times a week, and then I do yoga 3 times a week. And now I'm going to get into swimming.
I love it.
So, yeah.
Esther, I am so happy that you answered this call to come on this podcast.
I don't even know if it made sense.
It made a ton of sense. I remember, and it was beautiful. And when I asked you last week, you were so nervous, and I'm so happy that you said yes. Yeah. Any last words or piece of advice or anything else that you would like to say?
Well, I'm glad you asked that, because I think if you think if anything's going to be easy, you're fooling yourself. If you really want something in your life, you really have to work for it. And I'm not just saying that because, like, oh my gosh, it's probably cheesy, but seriously, if you want to accomplish anything, it really is something that you have to do. No one else can do it for you. No one else. It's hard, but it really is reality. If you even want to accomplish anything, you really have to decide that no one else can make you do it. No one else can make you lose the weight or make you feel good, or even in a relationship or whatever. You have that moment, that second to decide to be happy or not, or to work with it or not.
Yeah.
Because no one can offend us but ourselves, or we allow it to, or no one can make you happy. You know? And that's one thing I've learned, the hard way, big time.
Beautiful.
I don't know.
Thank you so much, Esther.
Thank you so much for listening to The Naked Patient Beyond the Operating Room. I'm Dr. Nicholas Howland. Please remember that every patient who appears on this podcast has consented to discuss their story and their surgery on the podcast. That way we remain HIPAA compliant. This is a free podcast. The best thing that you can do for us is to leave us a review online. Let us know what you liked. Let us know what you'd like to hear. Let us know how we can improve. If you are curious about anything related to plastic surgery, you can reach out to me on Instagram at Dr. Nicholas Howland, and I typically respond there, or you can reach us at the office at 801-571-2020, or we have an online form you can fill out at the website, www.howlandplasticsurgery.com. Any of our coordinators would be happy to help you. Thanks again for listening.
Thanks for listening to the Naked Patient Podcast. Stay tuned for the next episode. Till next time.